business ends up owning them more than they end up owning the business. And that was the same thing for my dad. So I don't think we have as much as a lazy problem as the media would have us believe. And so it's been said that between 40 and 60% of people in the trades are retiring in the next decade. This is a kid who the most exercise they've gotten in probably the last 5 years is typing on their screen. Let's create some friendships at work. Let's give them opportunities to do that by putting people on the same crew.
Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Ryan Englin. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to get to what you do and your expertise because I'm fascinated by it, especially as it relates to hustle and getting jobs and things like that. But we always begin by kind of taking ourselves back into the mind, into the journey of entrepreneurs and of our guests. So take us back. What led you? What do you think had the greatest impact on you and your upbringing? I know you grew up in a blue-collar home and saw that, but yet now you are not in a blue-collar business. So take us through that evolution and kind of how you were inspired by that.
Yeah, so I did grow up in a blue-collar home. My dad was an owner-operator. And he had that vision of, if I go out on my own, I make more money, I have more time freedom, I get to do more of the things that I want to do. And as many owner-operators find, that doesn't always come true. Business ends up owning them more than they end up owning the business. And that was the same thing for my dad. And as I grew up, I decided not to go into the family business because I didn't want that. So I went and got a degree, and I went into corporate America, and I realized I was not a company man. So I went and started my own company. I started a marketing company to help people like my dad. Because at the time, I thought the reason my dad wasn't getting everything he wanted out of his business was because he had a revenue problem. He wasn't good at bringing in new customers and keeping them. But what I found after running my marketing company for a couple of years, working for contractors, that's who I wanted to serve, I found it wasn't the revenue problem or the customer problem as much as it was a people problem. And so I had a few companies that gave me a shot at helping them recruit, fill some open positions. And shortly after that, turned out I really enjoyed it, was really good at it, but there was still something missing. And people needed more than that. They needed to know how to interview. They needed to know how to onboard. They needed to know how to engage their people so they didn't lose them. And that's what got me to where I'm at today. That was about 10 years ago we made that transition.
So I have a bunch of questions about that and about your business, and I really want to do some deep diving here. So there are those that say that there's a problem with our generation, with the next generation of up and coming members of the workforce.
Yeah.
Where they are just simply unhireable.
Yeah.
You focus on blue collar industries, I believe. Is that correct?
Construction and commercial services mostly.
How do you reconcile those two statements, that you're an expert in the field of hiring and helping blue collar industries bring on the next generation of talent, energy, and move their business forward, when the world seems to be getting lazier and lazier and less interested in those jobs, in putting in the work early and in developing their craft?
Yeah, I think the big problem is that we have a reputation problem in the trades. We have an image problem in the trades. It's not cool to go into the trades anymore. You know, when I think about the best recruiters in the world are professional sports teams. You got 5-year-olds that are throwing a ball with their dad, hoping someday to play for the Yankees. You also have 5-year-olds that are working with their little Tonka excavators and bulldozers in their backyard, making sandcastles and digging in dirt. But the parents are encouraging them to pursue their dream of playing for the Yankees, not to pursue their dream of building and moving dirt and doing those kinds of things. And because they're not doing that, because there is an image problem in the trades. No self-respecting kid of mine is going to go do a dirty job, is going to go do a job that I can't brag to my friends about. I want my kids to go work for Google and Apple and do these really cool jobs that I get to be proud of them for and be excited about them for. So I don't think we have as much as a lazy problem as the media would have us believe. In fact, it's very easy to solve the recruiting problem. The problem that we really have in the trades that no one wants to talk about is the retention problem. See, it's
Why
not
is
hard
that?
to hire guys. It's hard to keep them because as an industry, the blue collar industries have not really changed much in the last 50 years. And the modern generation expects more from them than they're getting.
Well, there's a lot there. So we're gonna keep going through the layers of the onion. The the parental thing is it's incredible to me because I work in a family business, not in the blue collar fields. I'm an insurance advisor. But what I've our longest running client, 56 years, the firm that my father, the first client that we ever had, blue collar industry,
Wow.
fifth generation that we're privileged to work with. You if you're in that family and you have pride, you start servicing oil drugs. And I think that one of the challenges that we have is that people don't realize the value.
Mhm.
You talk about image or not wanting to brag. I think that there is nothing greater and more valuable than a master plumber because the
Oh,
world
I
doesn't work. The
completely
world
agree
does
with
not
you.
work without them. The world does not work without a master electrician. And by
Yeah.
the way, you do not want to be in my way when my HVAC fails in the middle of June in New York City, July, when it's
Well,
hot and humid, and I need the expert. Don't send me the kid.
yeah,
Send me the expert,
yeah.
and
But
we'll
we
deal with
take
it.
those
I'll talk
people
to you
for
about insurance
granted.
that we take them so, and that's the point. I,
We
I
take them for
really hit on
granted.
that. We take them so much for granted. I think that what's amazing is that if you actually ask the intelligent executive and you ask them about the value and they thought about it, they would see it.
Yeah.
Yet it's almost like no, it's almost like it's a dirty word when it shouldn't be because that should be the greatest privilege. And by the way, some of my friends who are the most successful are the ones who did something crazy, didn't go to college,
Yeah.
and started working in the trades.
And that's
And I
one of the
think it's
beauties of the
incredible.
trades.
Is and that's where you see hustle the most is if you're willing to. I think you have to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to be a little bit intelligent, a lot bit curious, and be willing to put in the work. But there's nothing that can't be mastered. And then once you're the master, you can't be replaced. And everyone likes talking about robots and AI and things like that. I don't think that there is any AI that can send a robot to my house at 2 o'clock in the morning, solve an electrical problem.
It's not
Or get
gonna
the power
happen
back on
while
in
I'm
upstate New
alive,
York. Yeah.
you know?
So so how do we inspire people but here's the next piece of it. I just thought of this. One would think that in an age where the world, especially the United States of America, is questioning 4-year degrees, college, the money spent, the debt that people go into, that would flip on its head and people would say, maybe we should lean into the trades. Maybe we should change our view of them. Yet we're not there, and people are just leaning into being lazy YouTubers in their basement. And by the way, I think there's a great place for YouTube. I'm just saying that I
Yeah.
think that how can we change that? How can we change the messaging so that we can bring the right people into the right trades who are passionate and hustle and that ultimately make the world a better place?
Well, I think it goes back to what I said before. We have a reputation problem. So think about this for a minute. So I come home and I find out, or I come into my place of work and I find out that the second story toilet is clogged and overflowing. And it's drained down to the bottom floor and it's a mess and it's disgusting. Having a bad day. And the plumber comes out and says, you know what? I charge $150 an hour to solve this problem, to get your toilet to stop. So then the restoration person can come out and get rid of the mold and all the sewage and all the dangerous stuff that is going to make your family sick. And they charge $150 an hour. And what does the average consumer do? Are you kidding me? You charge me how much to do this stuff? You're just banging some pipes and cleaning out some drywall and setting up some fans. Are you kidding me? Yet that same consumer will go pay $500 an hour to an attorney to get them out of trouble for something dumb they did. They'll pay $500 an hour to get an estate plan put together so that when they die, their kids are taken care of. That's a no-brainer to value the attorney who really just exists to get us out of trouble and keep us out of trouble. They'll spend $500 on that. But the person that's going to say, hey, we're going to make sure that you have a healthy home to live in and you have modern luxuries and that your family stays safe and they charge $150 an hour and we think they're ripping us off. Like until that narrative changes, until we start thinking about the value of, like you said, the plumber. Google just announced this a couple of days ago. They're offering a $10 million grant to get more electricians in the UK. And when you read the article on why Google did it, you think, oh, Google wants to invest in the trades. No, Google knows that they are not going to be able to pull fiber optic cable if they don't have more electricians. And that is going to hurt Google. But
the foundation that's holding them back or will push them forward are the very people who they may or may not have looked down on, or the trades that they would have never considered when they were 20 or 22 or 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because if you think about it, like that's really how it works. It's not, there's no.
Yeah, people forget that in order for you and I to have this conversation, I mean, think about the number of trades that were involved in there. Let's forget the manufacturing who built all this stuff. But you've got electricians that pulled the wires. You've got plumbers that paved the streets to get a place for the wires to go. I mean, just think about the operators, the dirt movers, everything. So you and I could have a conversation over the internet. Does not exist without the trades.
It's incredible.
But we don't think about that.
So you said that in addition to the reputational problem, there's a problem within the trades, and this I'm ignorant, so I'm leaning on you on, of engagement or retention.
Yeah.
How can those in the trades or anywhere better engage and retain and empower? And I'm going to make up a word here because I'm not sure if it is a word. If I'm making it up, I'm going with it. Impassionate, meaning get their people to be more passionate about what they're doing. How can we? How do we get there? How do we rally the troops?
There's two major things. There's a lot of things, but there's two major things I think are going on. Number one, we have an older generation. So it's been said that between 40 and 60% of people in the trades are retiring in the next decade because they're aging out. They're old. The average age in construction is 51 right now. Average age is 51. So they're going away, but we have this older generation who is so stuck and set in their ways, saying these new kids today, they're lazy, they're entitled, they don't want to work, and they're doing nothing to change. And they don't understand that the only person they can change is themselves. Yet they force these kids, do this, do that, you got to be here. No, we need to change the industry to accommodate the modern workforce. And we're not doing that. They're stuck in their ways and they're mad about it. And it's funny because when I talk to some of these older guys and I say, hey, when you were 20, and we really get into it, they didn't want to work. They were lazy. They were entitled. I don't care what generation it is. The older generation always looks down upon the younger generations. It happens for thousands of years.
They just didn't have a phone during lunch to play with. They were spacing out or doing something else, so their boss couldn't catch them being
exactly. But that's the other thing. So then we have to understand that the modern workforce, especially this younger generation, they grew up digital natives. My kids have never seen, even on TV, because they won't watch the old TV shows because they're too fuzzy looking. They don't like that. They've never seen a phone with a cord. Like they have no idea how good they have it and how much has changed in the last 30 years.
Dial-up internet, man. Dial-up internet, man.
Oh, yeah. Remember that was when you went to get online and then your computer yelled at you because it was so painful?
Or your brother was on the phone so you couldn't use the internet. What about that?
You pick up the phone, you're like, ah!
Sorry, I interrupted you.
But they'll never understand that. But here's the thing. Today's generation grew up in front of a tablet. They grew up in front of a screen. In fact, we talk about this. I just know this being a parent and having school-age kids, is that kids don't get out and play outside like they used to. They're in front of the screens. Well, what do? We let them do that for 18 years. Then they graduate high school and we say, go get a job. And they're like, I'll give the trades a shot. And what do we do in the trades? We say, you know what? They're brand new. We're just going to put a shovel in their hand because they don't know how to operate the equipment. They don't know how to do the work. We're going to put a shovel in their hand. We're going to let them dig ditches for 8 hours a day. This is a kid who the most exercise they've gotten in probably the last 5 years is typing on their screen, like with their thumbs. And we put a shovel in their hand and we're like, see, they can't hack it. Well, maybe we need to change the way we do things, recognizing that modern generation is different than the older generation. So we got two things. Number one, we got to change our ways. But number two, we got to recognize we might need to change for them and make things better for them. And that's one thing. So this change component. The other thing to keep in mind is that in today's modern workforce, because of the advent of knowledge work and the ability for people to work remote, there is a belief now in society that I should not have to pick between work and my life. And in the trades, that's really hard because we need people to focus, be safe. They need to be a part of a crew and everything else. But here's the thing. This isn't severance. It's not, I walk onto the job site and I forget I have a personal life. They still have a personal life. And if we as leaders cannot show them some empathy when they're going through some tough times, and a lot of people are going through tough times, mental health, financial issues, you name it. If we can't show them a little bit of empathy and say, hey, let me put my arm around you and walk alongside you while we do this together. Let me support you while you're going through that divorce. Let me support you while you're taking your sick kid to their cancer treatments. Let me support you in these things. If we don't do that stuff, no one's going to care about them. And they're not going to care about the company, and they're not going to be loyal. And they're going to be like, you know what? If I go to another company that lets me work remote, or I go to another company that understands this a little bit better, then I'll actually get to take care of the things that are important to me. Because I'm sorry to hear this, but very few people wake up in the morning and go, I can't wait to go to work and erect that new building, and completely disregard their life. It doesn't happen. They're coming to erect that building because you're paying them so they can go support their lifestyle. And we have to realize those two things are blended in the modern workforce.
But there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. We should lean into that. And I think that those who embrace it are the ones who create the greatest company cultures.
Which is exactly why when our clients get on board with what I'm talking about, they dominate in their marketplace. And they're like, I got more people coming to work here than I know how to hire. And I've heard that many times from our clients. Like, people are lining up to come work here and I don't have enough positions for them right now. I got to go get more work. And most companies in the trades right now cannot say that.
Incredible. You're passionate about team building and keeping the soldiers growing together and creating the most efficient and effective team. If I'm starting today, how do I do that?
So I think the thing that we've lost, and this is a societal thing too, we've lost the ability to effectively communicate. We don't know how to do it anymore. I have seen my 27-year-old nephew sitting on the couch next to his friend, having a conversation with his friend on their phones. They don't know how to turn to each other and have a face-to-face conversation because they don't do that anymore. People do not know how to have a conversation anymore. People don't know how to communicate. People don't know how to ask questions, to be curious. It's a skill that we are losing rapidly in society.
But
And if
how
I want to,
does the employer take?
how does the employer what?
How does the employer, knowing this, knowing exactly what you're saying, I still have to hire a bunch of 23, 24-year-olds who love being on their phones.
Yeah.
How do I, their parents that couldn't break them out of that cycle, their teachers couldn't break them out of that. How do I?
Yeah.
How do I get them to communicate?
Well, one of the things that we find out, especially in the younger generation, we ask them questions during the interview like, what do you want to accomplish in 5 years? And it's deer in the headlights. And when we start digging into it, no one's ever asked them that question. Parents were too busy working. School system was too busy worrying about being underfunded. Like, nobody's ever sat down and said, hey, I want to help you achieve some goals. Let's do some goal setting. Let's have some conversations about what you want out of life. And when you have those conversations and you sit down and you really get to know people, you can create some amazing teams. Nobody cares that I've got great skills and you've got great skills and that kind of stuff. But if you and I have this bond where we are in it together and we will do whatever it takes to win, that's priceless. But you have to earn that. You don't deserve it. You have to earn it. And the way you earn it is by getting to know people. We have a tool that we use called the fuzzy file. And what I like to say is there are a lot of things that we know about each other that are incredibly fuzzy. So I mentioned on here that I've got kids at home, but you don't know if it's a boy or a girl. You don't know how old they are. You don't know anything about them. It's fuzzy. You know I've got kids, but that's it. And this fuzzy file is a nice little tool that you go through. And when you're onboarding someone new to your team, you ask them some of these personal questions like, where did you meet your spouse? When did you get married? What's your anniversary? What's your favorite restaurant, favorite sports team? You get to learn a little bit about this stuff. Now, this is stuff that takes years in general conversation at work to learn. We're going to learn it all in 30 minutes in a first conversation the day we meet. And we can use that to build a relationship and to connect. In fact, one of the things I tell people to do is if you find out that you've got a Chiefs fan and there's another person that's a Chiefs fan in the company, you know what? Mentor them up, right? Like let them get together because they instantly connect on something and you've just created a friendship at work, which is important to people. When we're the loneliest we've ever been in the world, let's create some friendships at work. Let's give them opportunities to do that by putting people on the same crew that have similar interests. You can't do that stuff if you don't ask, if you don't know how to have the conversation. But when you do, this stuff is powerful.
Do you think that I love that because I think also when people feel a kinship to those who they're working with and those who they're working for, it makes it easier to be away from the family. It makes it easier, even though, as you said, most people, and rightfully so, are focused on the means to the end, to get to the end, to get to the weekend, to spend more time with their family. If someone believes and cares and that and they believe that their employer cares about them, staying a half hour later burns a little less. That doesn't mean that you can abuse that privilege and do it over and over and over again. But I do believe that if I saw my friend, if I was working next to my friend, the fellow Chiefs fan, I can't believe I just uttered that, the fellow Jets fan on the site,
I just
and
picked
and I know, and and we were working together, and he or she has to finish something up, and they're going to be a few minutes later, or their lunch is going to be a little bit shorter. They're going to be a little later than everyone to get out today. I want to be with them because I want to see them succeed. I want to help them succeed. And ultimately, at the top, the boss, the shareholder, the CEO, the stakeholders, they benefit from that, and they didn't even plan that part, right? They didn't. They planned to create the union. They planned to create to bring the team together. And I think that this is it's so. And I struggle with this in my company. It's so where we went remote in COVID, and it's so incredibly difficult to dig into that fuzziness because even when you speak to people, even if you have daily, or weekly, or quarterly meetings, they kind of just want to get to business and get away from it. And
yeah.
as I'm speaking to you, I miss it. I wish we could find a better way to do it, and I can't. And I imagine in the field or on job sites, it's even more important because somebody's got to be there when it's 0 degrees outside.
Well, yeah. A couple of things you just said. So the way I like to say it is when someone leaves their house to come work for you, they're leaving behind three things. They're leaving behind their friends, their family, and the things they do for fun. And when they come to work for you, whether you pay 20 or you pay 30 or you pay $50 an hour, that is usually not enough to replace those priceless things. You can't put a value on the time that I get to spend with my kids. There's no dollar amount that makes it worth it if I'm working for someone else. And so you have to provide something else. And you said this, you've got to provide those things there. I don't want to dig into the family one, but you can make it enjoyable at work. You can give them opportunities to be friends. In fact, Gallup, which is a global analytics firm, they do a lot of stuff on workplace consulting. They have a survey called the Q12. It's 12 yes, no questions that you ask of your people, and it will tell you how engaged your workforce is. Question number 10 is my favorite. It's, do you have a best friend at work? Gallup has found people that answer yes to that question are 6 times more likely to be engaged than people who say no. That single question tells more about your employee's ability to be engaged than any other question on the survey. Do you have a best friend at work? And we're in a world where we're the most connected but most lonely, in a world where in construction, suicide rate is 4 or 5 times the national average. We're lonely. Creating opportunities to connect, creating friendships at work, letting people feel like they have a place where they belong. That will do more for engagement, team building, effective communication, profitable projects than anything else. But we ignore that stuff because it's work. And it's not the work we're good at. I'm good at erecting things. I'm good at digging ditches. I'm good at plumbing or electrical. I'm not good at connecting with other people. We have to learn some of these skills. And when we do, it's transformative to the organization and to personal lives.
Do you think that's more on the employee or the employer? That challenge?
It's a team effort, but here's what I know. The employer gets a lot more practice at it. So they're the ones that can become better and guide them through. I talk about this when we talk about interviewing. So many people have dismissed a candidate because they were horrible at interviewing. And unless interviewing is their job, we can't base it on the quality of their interview. They're nervous, they're stressed, they're freaked out. They got a lot going on in their lives. It's hard for them to focus and be themselves, but we dismiss them. And so what we train hiring managers to do is, how do you coach them through the interview? When you ask them a question and they freeze, instead of saying, "Oh, that was horrible," you actually say, "Hey, you know what? I get it. This is super stressful. Let's break down some of these barriers and just have a quick conversation for a minute." I shouldn't have to put the onus on the employee to know how to do that.
And by the way, then they really want to come work for you.
Of course they do. The number one thing millennials and Gen Z will tell you over pay, benefits, anything else, the most important thing is, am I working for someone that's investing in me? Are they training me? Are they giving me opportunities to grow personally and professionally? Number one thing they want. And what do? We train them how to do their job. We don't train them in anything else.
I love that. I love that. Can I ask your second favorite question on the survey?
You know, I really don't have a second favorite. But you know what? What's really cool about the Q12 is the questions are all public. So you could go run your own Q12 and it doesn't cost you anything.
Do you think everyone should?
I think they should. I actually encourage you to get it through Q12, get it through Gallup, because the reporting they give you is mind blowing. But you can go ask these. But one of the questions that we solve for the most at Core Matters is, I know what is expected of me at work. How often do we hire somebody, bring them in and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. We're short staffed. I don't really have time to train you. Can you go follow Jimmy around? Jimmy's going to show you the ropes." How often do we do that? And then Jimmy gets there and he's like, "Hey man, so glad to have you on the team. I'm not really quite sure what I'm supposed to do, but they told me that you were going to follow me around. So come on." We don't train Jimmy. And then what happens is 6 weeks go by and the new guy we hired quits, or we fire him for lack of performance. And it's not because he didn't have the skills or because he was a horrible employee. It's because no one told him how he was being scored. No one taught him, this is what we expect of you. And so expectation setting is such a critical part of the work that we do. How do the hiring managers sit down and say, here's what I expect? Do you understand? You don't? Instead of getting mad saying, I'm not explaining it well, let me explain it a different way. Here's what I expect. And then get so crystal clear that people know what's expected of them. But too often in the trades, we're so short-staffed, we're so busy, we don't bother telling them that. And then we hold on to them for 2, 3, 4 years and they think, well, I must be doing good. No news is good news. And then eventually someday they don't feel fulfilled, they don't feel engaged, or we fire them. And it was all because we screwed it up in the beginning.
I love that. Everyone should check out your book, by the way. Regardless of what business you're in, I love your passion. I love that you're leaning into the challenges and not trying to create a bot that's going to solve them, but realizing that humans have a long way to go. And I certainly am happy to be along for the journey. Ryan, as you know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote and what it means to them. So with that, I will say, Ryan Englin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for inspiring me to look internally at my own self when I'm working, lean into my employees and the values, and inspire my children especially to make the world a better place and to certainly keep hustling. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you and say thank you again.
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard this, but it's something that's been with me for decades now. But it's, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I have nothing else to say other than this has been another episode. That is awesome. Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. That is I've never been speechless at the end of a podcast, but I'll take it. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling.
All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.